Sure. No? She was in almost every episode. I would think she would know more than most folks. So, can anybody explain to me Twin Peaks just in general? Because I love the show, but it's David Lynch.
We're looking at the inside of David Lynch's mind.
And the thing about David Lynch is he doesn't care if you understand, and that's kind of the point sometimes, right? Because you've worked with David Lynch for a long time.
Yeah, I have. From one of his first films, Eraserhead. The mother of a cute little baby. No, I asked David one time, what does that mean? And he says, whatever you want it to mean.
And then, so my next question is, again, for all of you. It's like a Senate hearing. What did you know, and when did you know? So when each person has their own journey through Twin Peaks, how much in advance did you know what your character's arc was, especially that first 2 seasons? Because I know the 3rd season was probably a complete surprise for most of you. So was there, like, you were in almost a lot of it. Did they give you any hints leading up?
No, I knew nothing. I still know nothing.
Is that plausible deniability, or is that just...
Know nothing about nothing.
Dana, you had a lot of changes going through your character.
I think you guys probably know by this point that season 3 was, we only got our script pages and all that stuff. And like, I never saw the whole script. She maybe did, I don't know. But,
No, I didn't.
and so, and then the first 2 seasons, can you guys hear me? Sorry. During the first 2 seasons, I think we got the whole script. We knew what was going on with everyone else, pretty much, right? And it was like, just back when we started the first 2 years, it was sort of the first time they started to be secretive about that stuff, and they started to print we all had our own number that they would put on the script, so we wouldn't give them away. I mean, it was still pretty secretive even then, of course.
Do you remember? Can I say
Oh, absolutely. I'm not here.
The last episode of the first season, we were all at Dana's house watching together because we used to do that. We used to go to restaurants and bars and turn off the sports and put on Twin Peaks. Yeah. We'd all be there watching together. So we were at Dana's house and we're watching, and as you recall, I'm going to give it away if you haven't seen it.
Oh, these folks have seen everything.
The last scene in the episode was Cooper opens the door and he gets shot. And we all looked at each other. Are we out of work? What just happened? And we didn't know. We had no idea.
Well, I'll start with Alex. I'm going to do one question each, and then I'll come out to the audience because it's really about you guys. Obviously, this is one of your first roles you had, or at least a big role, and all of a sudden you're dead the first episode, which is never a good thing. It's like, oh, you're going to be playing a dead person. Episode 1, you're like a CSI body almost. But you also were required to do some of the background. And when did Maddie come into the picture? Was that something they planned all along, or is it something that just evolved?
No, I just was hired as a dead girl for like 4 days in Washington. And I knew that it was going to be, some corpse days and a couple photo shoots for flashbacks, and that was it. So it wasn't until months and months later that I heard about Maddie.
And how did that make you feel all of a sudden that you went from a day player to you're going to be there all the time? And now, look at you, you're everywhere.
I didn't know. I was so young and so naive, and I didn't know. And I was living in Seattle, studying theater. So even when David called and said, start talking to me about Maddie, or at that point he actually didn't even have. Maddie didn't exist yet. It was just the possibility of would I go down to LA and work, and so I didn't know how long that was going to be. I didn't know what a TV show was like. I had no experience in any of that. I just was like, okay, thank you. I loved working with him and all of these amazing people, and so I just said yes, and thank you.
Yes, that is so nice to hear. So yeah, it turns out that from what I understand, they just really liked what you did and couldn't get rid of you. They didn't want to get rid of you. Isn't that a nice feeling?
Well, that's a question for them. I mean,
No,
I
it's a
don't
nice
know.
feeling to be wanted. As an actor, it's like, oh.
I am grateful for any job. Dead, alive, dead, over and over again. I'm grateful for a job.
And worst case scenario, you had great prom pictures out of it, and you're only there for 4 day shoot. So Dana, Bobby Briggs fulfills his father's destiny for you. Because in this first season, he said you're going to be a good guy, a great guy. You weren't in the first 2 seasons. How did you like it? Yeah, you're a nice guy, Dana, but Bobby Briggs was kind of a dick. The first 2 seasons. I don't understand it.
Shelley likes me.
But how did you like that outcome for season 3 when all of a sudden you're putting on the sheriff's outfit, you and Deputy Andy working together, fighting crime, Starsky and Hutch style?
I was actually always a little jealous of the camaraderie of the police department over in Twin Peaks, never being able to be a part of it. So it was kind of fun for me to work with the crackerjack law enforcement.
I was rather angry because when I saw Bobby, the young hood, was in law enforcement, and I looked over at my desk, and I was still a deputy. According to my nameplate, I was pretty crestfallen.
Well, yeah, that's with long-term job prospects. Apparently, they're very limited in Twin Peaks. There's not a lot of advancement. They even brought in Robert Forrester because they couldn't trust you.
I just think something was fishy about the whole thing.
I would say that
Brat, what a brat. It was so humiliated for him in jail.
seeing you disappointed your mom.
It's not the first time.
So then in season 3, you have a major key sequence. But still, it's important.
I think, I was watching the show. In fact, I had visited David in Hollywood briefly after we shot the whole thing, and I said, so where am I? What episode am I? And he said, I don't know. He said, doesn't matter which order we go in. So I can't tell you at this point what episode you're in. It turns out it was episode 9. But as you recall, as viewers, you just went through hell trying to figure out what the F was going on. Oh my God, episode 8, and then here comes Betty Briggs is back. Everything's okay. That's all I felt. It was so good to be back.
It was so fun to watch her and David, do their thing that they've been doing for all those years again, you know what I mean? It was just like, there was like no time passed.
I actually, in that one scene, I went up on my lines. I'm old, it happens. And David came over, and I've got the greatest, I gave somebody my camera. David came over, and I was sitting in the, standing in the back of the chair, where I got the little thing out of it. And David came over, and he just was like this, and he's telling me my lines. And it was all going to be okay, and explaining how Bobby was going to be okay. And, it just made the whole difference that he got that I was terrified. Because as an actor, when you go up, your brain just scrambles. And he just came over and gave me the most wonderful encouragement. So God bless him.
And then she was just money.
I was going to say, was it,
they had that time?
for any of you, was it difficult for you to get back into character after 25 years? Because I know for some of you, maybe you're close to your character, but otherwise you've moved on to other things, you've done a bunch of stuff. Was it just like...
what was so wonderful is seeing him, in his new venue, and oh my God, who was the other officer? Michael Horse, oh my God, it was so good to see him. I was here, and David and all the crew, so much of the crew was from it. Yeah, with the original crew, yeah, so, thank you.
And James, so you do 2 seasons, and then this is not as common as it is now. What is it, 6 seasons in a movie now? Is that the catchphrase? It was 2 seasons in a movie. All of a sudden they come to and say, there's going to be a movie of Twin Peaks. And it's going to be a prequel. And you're going to be in it quite a bit. Was that, when they approached you about the movie, was that something that was unusual? Were you, especially the way the series ended?
Fire Walk with Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
but it was,
I wasn't in it really that much. It was
well, you were
a couple of scenes, but, no, I kind of, when they said that they were going to have basically Twin Peaks, it didn't surprise me that he asked me to do that. But
were you surprised there was a movie?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah.
It's like you do.
Yeah, because James was always one of the sweet characters as well. I kind of draw it with all the crazy people. I like the sweet guys. It's like, oh, it's nice. So you seem like you're in a lot more of that movie, because I just watched it. It was last night, and then I watched it 2 weeks ago. I felt like you were in that more. It's also like it's like in season 3.
Pretty small.
It's like in season 3. You're not in season 3 a lot, but the scenes that you're in, and you're singing again, and you got the guy with the one hand, and you're so sweet to that guy. Yeah, it seems like it.
Exactly.
Well, so now we're going to go the opposite. So you're so sweet. Let's go to Gary. Yeah, oh, look at that. They just want you to, they're so excited for you to talk, Gary. Gary, we've talked a little bit. Actually, Gary's a very nice guy and very personable, so it's nice to see Gary. Mike Nelson had quite a odd dating life on Twin Peaks. So you started off as being Bobby's buddy, and at some point they like, well, we're going to have a teenager, Nadine.
Well, he was also Donna's boyfriend at the start. I mean, we were connected.
Yeah.
Our girlfriends were best friends.
Believe me, there's a flow chart that I need for all the dating on Twin Peaks. But how did they pick you to be the one that's going to be going out with Nadine? Because they could have picked, no offense, they could have picked anybody. And yet they said, we need Mike Nelson for this.
The only reason I know about this is because we had a panel like this at USC, it was with a retrospective, and somebody asked that question, and the writer that was there kind of answered it, and I said, oh, that's how they came about that. I learned there. No, it was, I think they were just looking for something for me to do besides being his muscle. And they thought, you know, let's develop something, and they developed that. So it was a little obviously different than the first season, but it was quite fun. But it was a lot of trust because the character just went on. You know, he just kind of flipped there a little bit. The softer side of Mike Nelson was.
It seems like David and Mark have a film by gut. Like, they had great feelings about Sheryl, so they said, well, we'll create a cousin. Cousins, identical cousins. Patty Duke show. And then they must have saw something with you, and we'll find some place for Mike. Yeah. They could have been anybody to be the captain of the wrestling team, and yet, so you must have something.
It was me.
And yet somehow they chose you here.
Yeah. So, no, I was very grateful, and it gave me another aspect of the character to develop, and it gave me more comedy to do, which I love. So it was fun. It was great.
But it's already up on Amazon if you want to purchase it at pre-publishing prices. It's called Ballroom Harry Volume 2.
There you go.
And it's my photography book. And I'm Facebook friends with most of you in here because I recognize your faces from Facebook. And so you already are aware of the photography.
So it's called
Ballroom Harry Volume 2.
Hold on, we're doing some sales here. Do you have your square with you? We can do some credit cards right now.
I left my square at home.
So, you and Kimi Robertson were so adorable in everything. And everyone here is playing gray to dark gray characters. But you guys were like pure innocence. Did at any time did it feel like you two specifically, you and Kimi, were doing a different show? Like you were doing the sitcom
Yeah, of course. Well, we were pretty isolated from all of the darkness, just by virtue of the scene. So yeah, it did feel different than the rest of the show.
And when Ian Buchanan showed up, how did you feel about that?
That was like manna from heaven.
Really? All of a sudden you're competing with this handsome guy who, I don't know if he was on General Hospital or if he went to General Hospital, but you see him, he's this gorgeous guy.
Yeah.
Not that you're not good looking, Harry, but it's Ian Buchanan.
Ian's beautiful. It was just great to have him on there. He was so fresh, and for Kimi and I, it was a great experience to have him and form this triad. So.
Did you have any input in what your characters were going to do? Or is it pretty much the writers and you guys?
We just waited for our characters.
Well, Rebekah, you came season 3. Yep. One question each, and then I'm going to go out to the
I know, I
audience.
just wanted to say, Harry, your pages were like jumping, everything you did, you jumped off those pages. You're amazing.
Say that one more time.
Harry, your pages, what did I say?
Speaking to you.
And spoke to me, and then your characters jumped off those pages. I just didn't want to go, oh, now Rebekah.
No, and don't forget how.
Say, Harry.
Don't forget his moment.
And I am leading by example, I just bought the book. That's how it's done. I don't remember it, and it's not party talk. I got the t-shirt. I really am going to buy that book, and I did. Okay, now me.
So you were one of the guest singers, or one of the featured singers in Series 3 with Moby.
Right?
Yeah. How did that happen?
I don't know.
Because you're with people like Eddie Vedder, 9 Inch Nails.
I don't know.
You're great. You're beautiful, and your voice was amazing. How did you get into that situation where they chose you? Because
Oh, I just showed up. I wasn't even invited to this. I know, that's not true. So I wrote the song No Stars with this fellow, you might know him, David Lynch, and John Neff. And Sheryl Lee knows. It was John Neff's magic, all that guitar orchestra stuff. Okay, I'll make it quick, sorry. Okay, then I won't.
No.
So I wrote that a few years before, and the moment I found out, my agent told me, Twin Peaks is coming back on Showtime. I wrote David, all in caps, because that's what he does, right? And I tell him, do you realize you're yelling at me? But that's okay, I'm used to it, I'm Mexican. My mother did that my whole life. Okay, so here's the deal. So I said, listen, don't you think No Stars would be amazing in the new Twin Peaks? Just saying. And he said, yeah, absolutely. So that was that. So I'm like, I'm in. I asked, hey, listen, if you don't ask, you say no to yourself. Okay? And I say plenty of no's to myself, so, you know what I mean? And I'm so glad that I asked, because it's a beautiful song that the boys and I wrote, and I added my little flair. I have enough flair, don't you think?
Very interesting.
All extra AF. As flair, that's what that means. Don't get crazy. So, then I showed up, they said camera ready, which means we're not paying you we're not gonna do your hair for you. You show up, you pay for it. And I also got that dress myself. At Macy's. Okay. $12. So then, don't tell the person that it was auctioned off to in the UK though. Don't, it's between us. So then, so I show up at this place and Moby's there. I was like, oh my gosh, Moby. And then he starts playing like Sweet Home Alabama, because we were live. And then we're having a great time. So I can officially say that I played with Moby. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So then we did it, and it was a good thing because I was like 50 pounds lighter then, so that worked itself out. Because the camera adds 50 pounds. I'm on camera right now.
There's a couple over there.
My dream. No, I haven't.
Well, you were wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm going to stand up and get ready to go to the audience, so don't think I'm walking away from your answer, because I'm old and it's going to take a little bit. But you are Leo Johnson. What can I say about Leo? Yeah. So my question for you is, because people often assume the character is you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's Laura Palmer.
Yeah, the whole body of work I did after that was quite a bit.
But
I never read for anything.
They want Leo Johnson.
Yeah, I got hired on the spot for that persona.
But
and I got people.
Yeah, but real people, just civilians, when they meet you out in the real world, might think that you are Leo Johnson. So how is your dating life after the show? I want to know that. That's my question to you.
I was married,
So you didn't have to worry about it.
Divorced 12 years later, and
But how do women treat you? Because there's only two types. They're either going to be extra crazy or they're going to be scared.
you know what's interesting? You asked that question. Most people that have any social contact with during the show and after the show, outside of the show, didn't watch the show. It's an interesting thing. So there was nothing really there. There was nothing for them to judge.
That's why there was no season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I find that's true with everything. I mean, you ask a room of 100 people, 50 people who've seen it. 50% of them know the show, know it well, and they've heard of it, or haven't even heard of it, or never saw it. It's interesting.
Because your reputation as you yourself, as Eric DeRay, is of a very sweet, nice guy. So I just thought playing such an awful person, and he was awful. Even when he was a zombie at the end there, he was just an awful. He had one little tiny, slightly heroic moment at the end, but he was still kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
So I just want to know how that affected your person, so I'm glad that it didn't.
Yeah.
Good.
Not at all.
So now I'm going to talk to the audience. This is where I get scared. So if you have a question,
Laura, and starts to cry. I mean, basically that was it. And so I just kind of did it. All I had to do was just stay out of my way and not mess it up, basically. It was as an actor, to speak like an actor, it was like, seeing her face, it did have some sort of visceral thing on me that was, accessible as, I'm talking like an actor. It's like I couldn't feel it. So anyway, it was written like that, and it just worked out. And I remember I was super nervous, but everybody, that set is like a big, warm hug of love. Everybody wants you to do well. Everybody wants you to excel, and wants to see you flourish. So, it was easy in that aspect, but it's always kind of hard to get emotional and stuff like that. But it was nice. It was nice to see your face.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was amazing. One of my favorite parts about season 3 was being able to get to see everyone else's work again after all this time, because I'm a fan of everyone's, and so to be able to just be a viewer and see this great work again and see the way David tells a story, that was an incredible experience all these years later, just to be a fan myself. And yeah, that was a very moving scene.
Weeks, it was kind of emotional. It was the first time in my life that I saw people who were celebrated for their weirdness and for their quirkiness, as opposed to shunned or looked down upon, and that has been very important to me, and has continued to be important to me in the 20 years that I've been watching, because I was like 4 when the show first aired. I was just wondering if there were any personal stories about how it affected you, or any stories that anyone had told you about how it affected their lives. It's kind of just a group panel. Anyone who wants to answer can answer.
Say one little thing, and then you all would be able to comment on the first and second season. But I have to say, that was so beautiful what you just said. Thank you so much for sharing that. That means the world to me, and I'm sure I speak for everyone up here. But if we had any part of anyone's journey to find themselves and to find that beautiful spot in society, we're so honored. I'm very honored. And I have to, the story is yes, I indeed was the same place. I was the black sheep of my family, I don't know why. And, just a little quirky weirdo who could sing, and that show just really changed my life. And being in it, and here I am with the cast of Twin Peaks. And I'm up here, what? So thank you all for keeping it alive. For 30 years, everyone who kept this alive and allowed me to be a part of that 3rd season. Thank you, everyone here. And so now it's your turn.
Again, thanks for that question. I just want to take a crack at this just because I don't have a personal story really, but it kind of dovetails into this gentleman's question too, about why do you think it's lasted this long for such a short 2-season, 3-season show? And I think in general, and this is not me as an actor or filmmaker, just as a fan watching trying to watch from afar. I think Twin Peaks says the things that we think but we don't say, and a lot of the time it's about profound loss or profound trauma or grief, and it gives it a place to process out there, so people that are watching it can identify, and through that quirky, unique, creative journey, there's healing. There's a healing process, and I think that's why, especially with Sheryl's character, because Sheryl and I are good friends, and I know about the stories that people share with her especially when you come to a convention like this, the stories just keep coming. And so I think that gives me, and I think most of us, a lot of gratitude that we can be a part of something like that.
Thank you for sharing that. And from being involved with this show for all these decades, I can tell you, you are not alone. Do you feel that? Okay. There's a lot of us who felt like outsiders. We're all in it together. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. Thank you.
It was like, it never even entered my mind. And I think when ABC got a hold of it, the marketing department, I think that they really pushed the whodunit aspect of it, whereas David and Mark, I don't think really were that interested in solving the murder. It wasn't it was not a main concern. So that's what I've always kind of got the perception, that it was like some sort of thing that got out of control with the marketing that ABC started with. I mean, the first things you would ever see before the show, months before the show came out, was who killed Laura Palmer, just on a page in TV Guide or on a billboard or whatever, and you'd be like, what is that? But that, it just put it out there, and it just kind of snowballed, and then they kind of had to pull that trigger when they didn't want to and decide. And one more thing about that was that when we were first starting, I think we'd just done the pilot, and maybe the first 7, a few of us went and did a talk show in New York, and they asked the audience, they were going through like this, and people were in the audience were commenting, and some lady, it's on YouTube, you can see it, nailed it. She nailed it, and it wasn't even close to when they were deciding to decide who did it, but she hit it, and everybody was, we didn't know, the panel didn't know either, so we were, but watching it back, it's just like, wow, that lady was crazy. Anyway, that's all I can say.
Maybe. Did you think David Lynch might have seen it and wrote it? Did you think David might have saw that episode and said, well, there's a great ending right there, we'll use that?
Yeah, well, who knows? I doubt.
But did any of you have any weird theories, or what's the weirdest theory you heard about Twin Peaks in general? Is there somebody's come up to you and just said something that was so bizarre that you're like, how did you get that from this?
I don't know how to use a mic.
Well, just leave it on.
Yeah, see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I prefer the word creative rather than bizarre. I like the fact that people are really, really creative with their theories and their answers and their ideas. I don't judge it as bizarre or anything. I think it's fantastic and fun and joyful.
I'll rephrase it. What creative theories have you heard that have just kind of shook your head at? That's amazing. How did that happen? Anything? No?
I don't know if I can be specific, but it is interesting to see how much people think about certain things, and write about it and discuss it, and way more than I ever did. I was kind of reading something online the other day about, someone wrote an article about the relationship between me and my father, and he's probably in this room, I don't even know, but it was a long, long thing, and I read it, and I was like, holy shit, really? It makes sense, but it's I never ever thought of it. So it's just interesting to see people, go deep and go down that rabbit hole and stuff all the time. So.
Yeah, because you guys came out right like seconds before the internet. There was still forums and things, and nowadays that's all people do is just speculate and try to figure things out and share. So that's how these communities. That's how we have all these log ladies here today. It's thanks to Facebook and things like that. How has that changed how you do things for Twin Peaks and how you interact with folks? How does social media change how you interact with
The
fans?
show, well, it was weird because I was also doing the Waltons and Tremors, and they put me in a lot of weird things.
Creative things. We like to say creative.
Which is why Betty Briggs was such a relief. You know, Betty was so normal. She loved Bobby. She loved her Major Garland. God bless him. We became very good friends. And he was also doing a couple of other television shows in Los Angeles. So he would travel to LA and stay with my husband and I. And we got to be very good friends. And I just, I miss him so much. As Catherine Coulson too. You know, our dear friends who are not with us. I wish she was here. Because now there's someone who has stories to tell. She knew everything, the background, and you know, she practically shot the show.
We have a question.
I've seen the whole thing 2 times. Can you guys, am I talking in here?
Yeah, we can hear you.
One time when it came out, and then I rewatched everything, you know, right before we did the return. And you guys know my lines better than I do.
My favorite line is, "We're here for you, Bobby."
Bobby's just, oh.
Favorite, it wasn't a line. I laugh every time I see it, and it's so, you talk about people are weird and weird. It's this move that Jack Nance makes, and he looks and he has this look on his face and he just goes, every time I see it, I die laughing.
How about, "There's a fish in the percolator"?
There you go. I mean, Jack's a quintessential like deliverer of. When I used to be laughing like between takes, half the time it would just be his expressions and yeah, just that.
Fun fact though, we went to Charlotte's house, James and I and Laura from Boyle, and we went to Charlotte's house, and that was when Jack was living with you, and he showed us, remember, he showed us Eraserhead and the cowboy and the Indian.
That's right.
And no one had seen that at that point. So. But that was like a special thing, I remember. It was like, oh man, we're watching Eraserhead with Jack.
Okay, so my favorite line in this, well, first of all, I want to answer the first part of the question because I remember. I have watched it 3 times. Once when it was coming out, and I had to watch it sneaking it, you know, because then I was really a weirdo. So then once with Josh Eisenstadt on video cassette. I love Josh. I wish he was here. And then another time I watched the entire thing and then I watched the 3rd season and waited to find out where I was. Like, you know, that's how he made you do it. Nobody knew except for like the main character. So my favorite line, and I want you all to join with me. This is audience participation. It's the James is always cool line. Ready? Always cool. Okay, we can do it together. James is always cool.
I'm thinking, it's all going through my head. I don't have a favorite one. I'm like, well, no, that's Leo fans. They love those. For me, though, personally, I'm kind of with James. I mean, right when he said that, I recall that Jack, with the face, the expression, it just killed me. Yeah. Empty look and just kind of like absent. Being there and then just absent the whole thing.
And
very funny, yeah.
It's not frustration, it's just,
Yeah.
he's done. It's so, he says so much with just the noise.
Yeah, and it really was just instant recall. I wouldn't have never thought of that. The James, I just saw it. And yeah, it was just too many. And personally, for my character, the new shoes. That was on the spot. That wasn't written. I forgot my lines. I was with Dana and Gary out in the woods. It's like 28 degrees. And I just went blank. I drew a blank. And I just stood there for 20 seconds and I had no idea what my fucking dialogue was. But everybody just stayed there and David just kept rolling. I was waiting for cut. And then he just said, my light was down near my shoes. And he said, we only need some new shoes. I just said it, and that was it. Cut.
Well, we've got time for just a few more questions. Oh, now all you put your hands up. Oh, now you do it.
Your life, and if you wanted to do that, do the best impression.
Best David Lynch quote in your Lynch voice. Anybody? Oh, Charlotte, you've known him for years.
James has already been down this route.
I don't know. Dangerous thing to do. I'm gonna take Francis Ford Coppola instead.
She's like, who wants to, I want to be in season 4. I'm not going to do this.
I reminded James last night, the first day I got up on the pilot, on the set, we were brought up into an exterior shot, and James and I knew each other before, so we were jogging, and David's observing us, and he's got a big smile on his face, and he puts James on the spot. This is great. He goes, so James, I hear you do an impression of me. What? He goes, I don't do an impression of you. Come on, let me hear it. James, you did do it. He doesn't recall, but I don't remember what it was, but he would sit there and I think he did it, and then Dave was like, hot diggity dog. That's
where I got told the weird storyline. Everybody else is doing great, I'm the only one who imitated him.
He also wanted to hear the Anti-Dice Play impersonation.
That's memory.
Don't share secrets with Eric because he's got a really good memory. Okay.
All right, I'll do like 2 words. You can't get offended at 2 words, okay? So we were doing a take, and there was a really long pause when David was telling me what to do, and he was down, and he had his billard's hat down like this on his knees, and he was going to James, and he was trying to figure out what to tell me, and then he finally just gets up and goes, James, buddy, go for it.
Thank you. So I go to his studio, I sing crying in this Telefunken mic. You probably already know the story, it's my audition, I guess. I just sing it. I didn't know he was recording. I finish, right? I finish, he goes, ding dang, Rebekah Del Rio, that was aces.
I can hear that too. It's like, Rebekah Del Rio, you've got to say it like
just you and I want to know, like, did you have anything to do with, like, writing the song or, like, the way it was delivered?
It does have kind of a weird story. That's like, let's see, just to preface it, thank you guys for putting up with it, the ones who did it. And yeah, some people actually like it, which is cool, and I like it too, in a way. It's just that Wyatt's a little bit more quirky than it which was why he likes it now and he keeps it and stuff, because it is quirky. I brought a guitar to the set every day. I mean, I was always like, when there was a break, I'd always be in my trailer, annoying certain people around trying to meditate and stuff. So he came in and he said, well, do you want to do a song on the show? And I immediately, in my head, I thought, or he said, do you want to play on the show, the guitar or whatever? I thought immediately it would be some leads or something, and as sort of, maybe you catch James like doing some leads and then a scene starts and he puts the guitar down or something, I don't know. And he says, no, like a full-blown song, so I'm like, oh my God. So I go, okay, you mean singing and everything? He's like, yeah. Okay, so we go into the Briggs house where there was, oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't the Briggs house, it was Donna's house, where there was, let's see, I haven't told this story in a while. Okay, there was a piano and Angelo and David. So I'm sitting there like, okay, and we all went, you know, he said, we're gonna write this song, we're gonna go do it in 2 weeks and record it and then it'll be on the show, okay. So we're sitting down and he's like, what did you wanna do? What kind of vibe did you wanna do? And I said something probably 50s, you know, kind of mixed 50s, old rock and roll, but something a little bit now. And he goes, what 50s? And I said, well, like that old doo-wop, sort of like Only You, like falsetto, but then sang regular and then falsetto. And he goes, oh great, Only You, just you. And he starts singing, and I go, okay. And then Angelo, do it, dun, 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 like, and Angelo starts doing 50s. Oh, okay, dun, 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 dun. And he goes, and he starts writing it, and then Angelo goes, together, and he goes, together, and I go, forever, and then he goes, and then we all go, in love, and then that's literally how it went, and we kind of looked at each other, and he goes, that's it, let's just go and record that, and he writes down the 4 lines, and he goes, we'll go do that next 2 weeks, and he goes, James, get ready to play on it, we were going to play guitar on it, you'll record it, and I went, cool. I get there, and he was jammed for time at the studio in Hollywood, and he had already recorded all the music, and it was not in my key. I can't, and so, if you sing falsetto, it has to be specific because you have to, the key has to be specific because you have to be able to sing the falsetto, and all this stuff, and then come down to your regular voice, and so like in Only You, he goes, only, he's regular voice, only, and then you know, you're supposed to be able to come down back to normal. So I was in high falsetto the whole time because the key was wrong, and if I broke it would have been too low, and it was like awful. So I and a little off key because it wasn't my key. I was struggling, and he hated it at first, and then he goes, no, I love this. And I said, yeah, and he goes, I go, please, can't I just re-record it with the guitar in my key? It'll sound so much better. He goes, James, this is phenomenal. And I'm like, for you it is, for me. I'm like, you know. But that's about it.
Working on Twin Peaks.
Well, the two biggest things for me are just being able to hang out with such a wonderful group of talented artists and really good, solid human beings. Just people that I love, that I feel like are my family, that we've grown up together. That, and then also, it's been touched on a lot, like Gary said it so beautifully earlier. Because of the subject matter that the show deals with in so many different areas, and because we live in a world that is so ruled by technology, to be able to have human-to-human heart contact and connection, I feel like that is something that the show definitely has served in a wonderful way. That we recognize each other.
Connectedness. It's a weird thing. It's like wherever I go, there's an energetic familiarity where it's like I can relax. It's like whenever there's either Twin Peaks fans or I see, you know, there's a certain connectivity that I think, yeah, exactly, in a world that's turned into, it's not even just technology. I think it's a part brainwashing, part all this other stuff where everybody's just, you know, it's a very, like you said, not to hit it over the head, it's just very disconnected, and this does connect us, and to me, that's like what true art is. That's really what art is for.
You know, the first 2 seasons especially, we were caught up in it just like everybody else. Like, wow, now we started hearing about the coffee and pie parties, and everyone started to get together, and then it just kind of took off. So we've shared all that with you, but also with us. And when we get together, it's not like we hang out all the time, but when we see each other, we were just talking about this last night, it's like extended family. And in a positive way. Yeah. Yes, in a positive way. So it's
about
good.
family. Yeah. It's like meeting, if you could have your family, you know, as the ones you want. If you could weed out all the ones you want and keep them and get rid of everybody else.
I just want to say how much I appreciate you, the Twin Peaks fans, because your attention to detail. is just so exquisite. You know, half the time I don't even remember what I said, but you tell me that. And I'm on the road a lot with Little House on the Prairie events. You are so different. A little bit different, yeah.
There's got to be an intersection in the
Venn diagram, yeah.
I'm on it.
Well, thank you for so much for sharing yourselves with us.